Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Fella Tarot. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my August monthly wrap-up. There's going to be a lot of decks we're going to talk about for this month. Also books and video games, fountain pen and inks. So sit back and relax, have a coffee perhaps, because it's going to be a long video. So first I want to talk about two absolute gems that I was very lucky to get, because we're talking about a very limited run of an oracle deck which is called When Olga Speaks. And this deck is it was a very limited run on MPC, the website Make Playing Cards. I think it was only 200 decks. And I got it because originally I saw the Kickstarter campaign, and whether it was because of the time of the year in which, you know, not a lot of people, everyone is thinking about holidays and not necessarily at home. Kickstarter not necessarily the one website that you have available on your phone, for example, or the app or something. And generally speaking, I find that because I never save my credit card numbers on any website, I found that in many cases Kickstarter, I actually backed down on a pledge for a Kickstarter campaign in some cases because I did not necessarily have my credit card with me. But in any, this is regardless of what has happened. The campaign did not fund. But there's a lot of interest for this deck. It's a really beautiful photographic collage deck. And I'm going to show you, and the Kickstarter will be relaunched. So I will be showing you this on Instagram and on YouTube a few more times. Because I really believe that this deck should be, you know, printed in more than 200 copies. I believe that more than 200 people should have this deck. And also I want to show you this tarot deck. It's called Le Tarot des Paysages Intérieurs. It's by Camille. Camille is a French artist, and she's painted, well, several works of art. I think she's also done a couple of expositions around the country. And the reason why I was very lucky to get this tarot deck is because there were a few shipping mishaps that happened. But she was so supportive, and she was so kind to me that she actually agreed to, the first shipping didn't go through because for some reason the authorities thought that the material was flammable, and so they sent it back to her. And so she sent it back saying it's just plain cards. And this time it went through, but when I left, it was too late for me. So I went on holiday. I had a mail hold, and then I just got it back in August, and I'm so very happy that I did, because it's literally one of my favorite decks, indie decks, at least for 2023. It is an incredibly beautiful, visually stunning deck, and I can't wait to show you these two decks together. But what I wanted to show you is the way in which, let's say, these two actually pair up even better with the Balgowlah Oracle. Now, if you watch my channel, you remember that I used the Balgowlah Oracle together with other tarot decks and other oracle decks. Whenever I do a kind of a healing with the tarot work, and in specific, whenever we deal with trauma related injuries and depression and anxiety. And so I use this deck for a lot of introspective work. Now, these three together are absolutely fantastic. Let me just zoom out just a touch. So we're going to have a look at these three together, and I'm just going to, you know, flip the cards and just show you. And I just want you, if you can, to focus on the incredibly strong message that we get out of these cards. So the tarot deck is very, very beautiful, and it's very important to me. And the story behind it is that I was following the artist on Instagram, and I saw this deck, and the first card that I saw from this deck was the Three of Swords. And if you follow my channel, you will know that I am very particular when it comes to the Three of Swords, because I don't necessarily like the traditional configuration of the card being a heart pierced by 3 swords, even though I completely understand that that is indeed the traditional RWS way of representing that card. But there you go, 3 of swords, thank you. When you call for something, when you call for something, it actually comes to you. So manifesting. So the reason why I fell in love with this card is because the description on Instagram of this card is that this person is so overthinking. They're so lost into their own anxious thoughts that actually keep on pacing back and forth, and they dug a hole around them because of the continuous, the stressful, the relentless kind of worrying. And this is a really very, very close way to my interpretation of the 3 of Swords. So when you read numerologically, but also if you don't, the suit of the swords is a suit of the mind, and therefore it comes as a given that you need to focus on something that is related to the element of air. For example, it is the mind, it is the thoughts and everything. And number 3 is the number of growth that comes after the 2. The 2 is when you grow out of your own shell and you meet someone else and you commence your outer reflection of your feelings, emotions, and thoughts and projects in life and everything projected onto the other person. After the 2, there comes the 3, and the 3 is the additional element that comes into play after the 2. So the 3 in the suit of the mind represents that kind of growth after outgrowing the couple, in which, of course, you find yourself at odds with your decisions, and you find yourself in a situation in which you feel like you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, like in the 2 of Swords, but this is actually making you very anxious. You're overthinking it, you're over worrying about it. And my way of worrying about things is definitely to pace, and I generally pace around the table, and that's what I do. And if I could actually dig a hole, that's exactly what I would do when I'm worrying too much. And I really love this combination. As you can see, you got the cleanse coming from the Death Doula Oracle, and this over worrying, this way in which you dug your own hole because you just keep on overthinking on the same things. And you've got the When Olga Speaks Oracle, which is the card for offering. So it's actually kind of reminding you to just take a break, take a little bit of a break for yourself and cleanse. Do this ritualistic kind of cleansing, because you need to perhaps everything that you've got on board with you, everything that you got in your mind, and everything that you've been taking with yourself, you need to probably put it down and do a cleansing and just start from the beginning perhaps. And the offering is everything that you do not need, leave it behind. And perhaps that could be your offering. Offer all of the thoughts of anxiety, of worrying that keep you up, at 3 a.m. and just offer them, offer your pain as something that you don't need, and give it back. So it's something that really makes you think. It's a really, really beautiful combination. These 3 together work like a charm. You got the abstract photos obtained with the stacking of different images from the Death Doula Oracle. You got the paintings from the Tarot of the Internal Landscapes, which will be the translation for the French name of the Tarot. And you got When Olga Speaks, which is a really fantastic oracle deck, it's basically based on what the artist grandma Olga used to say for every single situation in life. And it's got that kind of feeling. It does feel like, the combination of the photographic collage and the keywords indeed kind of seem to give you the possibility to reflect and meditate perhaps too on what would your grandma have said in such and such situations. It is that kind of wisdom of the crone that we see in many other decks, for example, but in here it is embodied by this really beautiful choice of images in the photographic collage. Now, as I was saying, you've got a sort of an evolution going through, from your abstract of the Death Doula into your photographic collage which is still in itself not necessarily focusing on one element, because being it a collage, you have different elements collaged together. And then you just go, the natural progression is going into this expression of your feelings into this art. But this art, as you can notice, is not a realistic kind of art or painting style. It is very evocative, and it's also very intuitive. And this is the reason why I think, first of all, these three really work very well together. But also I definitely feel like I have a lot of feelings related to this tarot deck, because it is one of those decks that, on the one hand, it is very visual for you to understand the meaning of the card, even though I won't necessarily recommend it to a beginner, perhaps. Also because it does not come, for the time being, I don't know whether in the future there will be a book, like a guidebook or a little workbook, but for the time being it does not come with that. Although if you follow Camille on her, it's Camille Le Jardin, and if you follow her account on Instagram, which I will make sure to put in the to link in the description box below, you will see that for many cards she is actually providing with an explanation. I think not just in French but also in English. But in any case, nowadays in Instagram you can actually translate, you know, from a non-English language into an English translation, so it's not difficult to follow. Can you see the energies of these three together? It's amazing. It is enough, let's say, it's enough as abstract images to let you use your imagination and also your intuition, but at the same time it also grounds you because of the death doula, and it also gives you the possibility to find something that resonates with you because of the When Olga Speaks oracle. And on the other hand, the tarot deck is very, very evocative too. So these three have been on my desk for the whole month of August, ever since I got back from my holiday. I have been working with these three a lot. I really, really enjoy them together, but I also enjoy them on their own. As you know, I do a lot of work with the Death Doula. If you're one of my clients, you will know how much I actually use the Death Doula Oracle in my practice. Whenever we do a lot of healing taking place, this deck is fantastic for healing. But starting from October, I want to introduce these two decks as well for, you know, the healing practices for the inner child wounds healing that I do, for the shadow work that I do, etc. So these three decks, as I said, absolutely fantastic combo. But let's have a look at other decks, because I have got so many for this month and I don't want this to be a 3 hours video because, well, it would be too long. So another deck that I wanted to show you today, a deck that I didn't necessarily buy in August. I think I bought this in the end of July perhaps, but I definitely did not have time to use it, not even to look at it at the end of July. So I some of the decks that I bought in July, I actually ended up having a look at them in August when I got back from my holiday. This is the Citadel Oracle by Fez and Crate, and I'm pretty sure it's very famous, it's popular. I've seen, this is the mass market edition, still by 1111. I'm pretty sure a lot of you, I've seen it in many channels, I've seen many Instagram accounts. It is a very beautiful, I must say, oracle deck. It's one of those decks, sorry, just stuck in, the cards were stuck in the box. So it's one of those decks that has a little bit double kind of use that you can enjoy with this deck. It came, let's say, the indie edition or the original edition, not the mass market, came with the option to get a larger box with a book, and in the book there was also the explanation on how to use this deck for a game. And there was also an additional deck to use as well, and a map. That was absolutely glorious. I would have loved to have that. What happened was that I missed out on the window I think there might still be some available, and it would be great. I'm just looking into it, but I was in that period of time in which I was actually leaving, and I didn't want a big parcel to get lost in not being at home. So I just got the mass market edition. Now, a question to you guys: if you have the bigger edition with the other Oracle and you know the explanation to use it as a card, as a playing card game, would you be able to let me know in the comments below if how you use it? Because what happens is that to me, this as an Oracle, I'm just going to show you. This reads a lot like an archetype deck to me. And because there's archetypes there, you see the diviner, but you also have with the archetype and the identification of an archetype in the name, you also have a bit of the keywords or sentence or message that actually helps you use it as an oracle. So if you're not familiar with the meaning of the archetype of the diviner, for example, you can actually look at what it says at the bottom of the card: divine timing, evaluation, or see the assassin with ruthlessness and conviction, the gambler, loss, risks, the forgotten, missed opportunities and fear of failure, the sailor, new influences and wanderlust. That's me, definitely. The chiromancer, the warrior, perfectionism and burnout, and so on and so forth. This is, by the way, really beautiful. I don't know if you can see. I think I can show you this way. So there's a lot of decoration with gold stamping. It looks like it's rose gold on the cards. Now I think that the original edition came gilded in the same color as the stamping on the front of the card. I'm not sure 100% because I don't have it. It could have been a more like a ruby kind of color. I'm not sure 100%. But that is really beautiful. And again, as it happens in many cases, sometimes the gold stamping could be distracting for many decks, but in this case I actually find it it integrates with the images of the cards without, you know, lifting you away or lifting you off the reading. It certainly is a gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous deck. I'm not a fan, I have to say, of this kind of hexagonal, you know, shape. I would have preferred a traditional, but then again, it doesn't matter. It works, it still works. It doesn't bother me at all. And you know, it's so beautiful that I don't even mind that it's a bit of an odd shape. And besides, there's been a couple of odd shapes around lately. Although I just have received some news yesterday. If you missed out on the Wild Child Oracle, which was indeed not hexagonal but was rounded, it was similar to the Luminous Tarot. It was the same shape. You can probably order this again because they're relaunching a print. And this second edition is actually square. So, you know, the Wild Child Oracle, that was the same author, illustrator as the Healing Waves Tarot and the Wild Child Tarot. So both the Wild Child Tarot and the Wild Child Oracle will be reprinted. I think they started to take orders shortly. I'm filming this in September, at the beginning of September. And but the shape of the Wild Child Oracle will be a traditional like rectangular kind of shape. So if you missed out and you didn't necessarily like the shape, you can have a chance at grabbing a copy. Now, what I want to show you today is I'm going to pair this just for fun, because I feel like it's going to be a really fun kind of experiment. I'm going to pair this one with two storytelling card games, so the Hollow Woods and the Shadow World. These two are from the same publishing company, which is called Magical Mirioramas, and they are very special. Now, these three together, they actually really work when it comes to aesthetics. Well, these two because they kind of have the same let's say purpose, and this one because it really does share a lot of the aesthetics with the other two decks. What happens is that this one, if you read on Amazon the reviews, for example, you will see that a lot of people say that this is actually more like it doesn't feel like a card playing a card game. It feels more like a writing prompt, and I'm a fan of using writing prompt decks as oracles, because so these are I'll show you. So these are the two. This is the Shadow World and this is the Hollow Woods deck. So when it comes to the Shadow World, you also have this kind of a leaflet, and there is an explanation for each and every card. So in this case we've got the remote control, and is this junior engineer planning to wreak havoc with his own creation? So obviously you have to use your imagination, and the purpose of the game is to pull a few cards and create a story. So that's that. You see how this is more working like a writing prompt, a creative writing prompt kind of deck. However, on the other hand, you can definitely work out your own keywords when it comes to these cards, because it does imply that kind of, you know, for remote control, it's this junior engineer planning to wreak havoc. So distraction, or, you know, something like planning strategy, or looking into the future and thinking what is going to happen. You don't it could be misunderstandings, it could be a threat, it could be worries, it could be messages, it could be news. So it's something that really, obviously you need to look at these cards, or you can also use your own intuition, just base yourself on what you see on the card. But I find that using it together with the Hollow Woods, which is this one, and in here we've got the werewolf, for example. So for the werewolf, who is this accursed creature? Can the spell ever be broken, or is he doomed to pass on his hideous affliction? Can you see how you can definitely create a kind of a flowing thought? It's basically the thought process behind the storytelling techniques of a writer, which, you know, it even more so explains how and why I personally see the profession and the job of a tarot reader as a storyteller. Because you interpret, you see the card, you read the card, you interpret their message, you translate the message, and then you relate back. You have to become that kind of a storyteller in order to relate back the message to someone you're reading the cards for, in order to be able for them to understand what the message is, what the cards want to tell the person. So in here we have a story about conservation. Okay, it's a story about a lot of affliction that has been inherited through centuries, perhaps through generations. And, you know, the card is asking you, is he going to break through that, you know, and break and stop the cycle, or is he going to pass on this affliction down to generations that come? And then you've got the orator, the communication and the confidence, and then you got, you know, worrying about the future, which is more or less the same kind of in the same kind of idea that we need to break the cycle and try and obtain a better future. There is a very beautiful poem, if I remember the title. So it's okay, I don't remember the name, unfortunately, and the title of the poem, but basically the concept is that generation after generation you receive the accumulation of all the mistakes of your ancestors, you know, brought down to you, and unfortunately that becomes a heavy burden for you. But what you need to do is, when you do have your own children, for example, you need to stop that kind of domino effect. And you need to be the one that breaks the cycle. You need to be the one that does not transfer the afflictions and the mistakes and the problems and the anxieties and the wounds of your previous ancestors into your future generations. Be the courageous one. Be the one that has the guts to actually stand up and stop and, you know, and change the course of history. So perhaps, you know, you can definitely have this as at the back of your mind whenever you read, especially with these three decks, because I can assure you they're actually quite so one is sci-fi related, so it's this one, the Shadow World, and this one is very dark. It's very dark storytale kind of deck, and so you will have this kind of reaction And it's very interesting to have a look at the meaning of the cards from the two leaflets that I showed before. But it's also very nice to, you know, have a look and really reflect on the cards by yourself and understand what they mean to you, what the relation of the messages that come out of the cards is in relation to you. So how do you see them? How, and obviously whenever we do some kind of intuition and interpretation of the cards, we need to understand that the interpretation might not be necessarily the same as someone else's, simply because we have this patrimony, not just of genes that we received, but also of what you know, we call epigenetics. So epigenetics is the influence of the environment in the genetic, in the DNA that composes ourselves, our bodies. So we are not, we're stepping away in the last 20 years. We're stepping away from the genes theory that genes explain pretty much everything. I don't know if you were familiar with that, if you ever heard of that, but it's always been a theory about everything is related to genes. In the last 20 years, thankfully, we have been stepping away from that, and we have been looking at the way in which the environment and experiences, and also, you know, not just that, but also at the consumption of certain food or drugs on everything, but also the impact of certain incredibly strong and life-altering events have into our genetic patrimony, our genetic foundations. And that makes me very excited. I've actually recently started studying epigenetics because it's incredibly interesting for me, for very selfish reason. Of course, we all want to know where we come from, but we also want to know where we're going. You understand what I mean? I mean, one thing, whenever we were told, okay, because your mom was wearing glasses, you're going to be wearing glasses, it's not necessarily something that is genetic. It's something that is, nowadays we understand that it's not just genetics, it's genetics in, you know, in the environment. So nature and nurture don't necessarily have to clash against each other, or one be responsible for things and the other not being. It's a combination of those two. And that, I believe, that is the future of, you know, studying illnesses and diseases and also addictions, for example. Anyway, that was completely okay, I don't know. Well, we started talking about that because of, you know, breaking the cycle and then starting something new and not believing that you are destined or doomed to repeat the mistakes of someone that came before you, because you can actually stop that, break free of that. And that is something that I really believe in, and it's something very important for me. These decks, as you can see visually, are really stunning together, but they're very interesting. And once you get to use these two a couple of times, you become familiar with the meanings of the cards, and then you will start having this kind of conversation between these three decks. That could be, if you're a writer, for example, that could be very interesting as an exercise. But if you're a storyteller in general, if you're a tarot reader, this is something even, I think, quite fun to do. So this is the Citadel Oracle, and I paired it up this time with the Hollowoods, let's say, card deck, and this one is called the Shadow World. But now let's talk about these two absolutely gorgeous, stunning decks. These are the part of the James R. Eads latest work of art, which is actually a massive kind of box, because it comes with not just a tarot and an oracle deck, but also, I believe, a Lenormand and a runes deck, and also a like an extensive kind of guidebook that looks into all of the cards. I only have the tarot and the oracle deck. I'm still looking for the Lenormand, but I think that I found someone that will source it locally. I'll be able to do that without, you know, paying the hefty shipping prices from the US. Now, these two are absolutely fantastic. I'm surprised that I actually haven't seen them as much as I thought I would have, because I simply love these cards. They are so beautiful. They do have that kind of, well, for example, the Oracle deck comes with very beautiful holographic artwork, and the tarot deck doesn't, but it's got some really beautiful scenes on the cards. So of course it's a fully illustrated, fully scenic deck, and it's very nice. So I actually really like these two together, which, you know, I know that it sounds like, well, of course you like them together, it's the same artist, the same art style, you know, they're even being planned to be used together, in the sense that I believe that James is actually selling like a leather kind of box, a really large one where you can actually put all of the cards together. I don't have it, but in any case, it's not just because of that, it's just because it's actually, they actually work together. It's a really beautiful combination, and I really enjoy these two together. They have that kind of muted color palette, or let's say thematic kind of color palette, in the sense that you don't see the whole spectrum of colors. Wow, I love Temperance and Justice. You know, the directionality of these two cards, like the same type of angel with different colored wings, let's say, but they're flying. It's as if they were flying out of the willow tree. It's really the flexibility of the willow tree. The willow tree reminds me of you know, being able to be flexible in life and being able to adapt to change, which is, you know, it comes from the adaptability of Temperance, you know, the re-establishing of that kind of equilibrium, and also the consequences that are brought by Justice. And to be honest with you, because I spent the last week held up in court because I was selected for jury duty, and Justice has been in my mind for days, and I'm still under oath, so I cannot disclose anything because it is part of a major investigation. So obviously I cannot say anything, basically, not to hurt anyone, because that could be, you know, that could be very very tricky. But the quality of justice, you know, the way in which we look at justice. And I've been thinking to myself, because I couldn't sleep, okay, it wasn't a gruesome crime, it wasn't, fortunately, it wasn't a violent crime, but it's still something that really take my sleep away, basically, because it made me think so much. And because when you're a juror, you're part of a group of 12 people, and you're responsible. You are the judge of facts. So that's how they call you. They don't even call you juror, they call you judge of facts, in the sense that you'll be the one deciding, together with other 11 persons, if you believe that the accused or the defendant, I believe you call it in the US criminal justice system, is guilty or not guilty of a certain charge they've been charged with. The judge, it's very rare that a judge actually overrides the jury's verdict. And in Australia, I believe it's even more rare, in the sense that this judge had no intention of overriding anything. He kept on saying that it was just on us, it's us and just us. And that kind of, if you get the meaning of that, that kind of, it makes you think, because it's not a TV show, it's not a movie, it's not a book you're reading, it's not something you hear from someone else, it's you in front of this person. And let me tell you, they look at you because they sit right in front of you. It's not like in a courtroom where they sit beside you. That's what I thought would have been like. No, they literally sit across from you at, I say, not even 10 meters away from you, for hours on end, day after day. And you don't know them, you just know them through the evidence. You just get to know them through what they've done, allegedly. What, you know, the lawyers tell you about them, or what the witnesses tell you about them. And with the few pieces of evidence that you have, which even when it's a little, it's actually a lot, because you have to study them for hours and hours, if you're not convinced, of course, then you have to reach a verdict. Has this person actually done what he's been charged for? And, you know, you have to be responsible for that, because to me, that's the most important part of a life's person, to be receiving justice. And that made me think about the whole meaning of the cards. You know, the justice card. It's a very important card, and not always, we don't always look at it for how important it actually is. To me, justice is the application of a verdict, establishing what you've done and if you've done what you've been charged of. And judgment is actually the sentencing. So obviously, if there's the application of a verdict and the verdict is for guilty, then judgment will be the application, will be the sentencing as applied to the indictment, so as applied to the charges. Whereas, you know, if someone is not guilty, then judgment will be a release. So and I know that there's a lot of my students that have a bit of had a bit of trouble in understanding the difference between the judgment card and the justice card, and I really see them as two separate steps in this particular context, so not outside of this context. So if you look at in different contexts, of course they'll have a different meaning, but because tarot deck can actually be applied to very specific circumstances, when we look at it from this point of view, the let's say the verdict will be referring back to justice, whereas the sentence, it will be referring back to judgment. I hope I'm going to try and write this up in such a way that it will look like some kind of a course, you know, a tarot reading course. Sorry about my cats in the background. You probably hear him. Are you hungry? And it's not food time yet. Sorry about that. I have a black and white, very vocal cat, very vocal. But I just wanted to show you the Oracle in combination with the Book of Shadows and Alchemist story by Andrea Aste tarot deck, because I really think that it works really, really well. And my cat keeps on chirping. So this is called, what's he's doing right now, it's called chirping. He's letting me know that he's around here, basically. And also he's letting me know that he wants food. That's a given for him. I mean, he will be, you know, he has the munchies at 2 a.m., at 5 a.m., at 10 a.m., at 12, and so on and so forth. He's not a chubby cat, but because he's an outdoorsy kind of cat, so he will climb on trees and he would just burn the fat accumulated during winter. But it is, he is always hungry, and I feed him like I spoil them. I really do. The other day I was giving them wagyu mince, so that's actually more expensive than what my husband and I eat. So anyway, not to share too many details about that, but if you hear him chirping in the background, I will have to step away and feed him, because it's going to be feeding time soon. See how beautiful these two decks are together. So this is definitely a dreaming kind of deck, and I believe that the Glyph Oracle really pairs well with this deck for this reason. But I also want to show you another deck that I believe pairs up even better with this tarot deck, and it's the Dream Ritual Oracle cards. It's a really beautiful. So just to give you an idea, this is a Well Back Balance publication release, and it is the same as the, what was it, the Ocean. There's an Oracle deck with the Ocean, what's it called, the Sea Soul Journeys. And also recently I bought a new one, which is called Earth Blessings Oracle card. And the book, I believe, is by Liz Dean, which is one of my favorite authors when it comes to a guidebook, let's say, for tarot, because she's also a numerologist. So her approach is actually definitely numerological. Now that one is an oracle, so I don't expect, I haven't read it all, but I don't expect a numerological approach to oracle cards. But she writes really well, and these two together are absolutely fantastic. And I was talking about this combo with Robin from Robin's Reflection, and she was agreeing, and she was saying that definitely the dream ritual is so dream ritual oracle cards is about, technically will be about the interpretation of dreams, but on the other hand it works really well as a general oracle tool. And this deck, the Book of Shadows, is so intrinsically oniric, so you know, that creates that state of trance that you experience when dreaming. I think it's a bit to do with the colors, but these two are just absolutely beautiful together. I really, really love them. So, okay, so this is the Dream Ritual Oracle cards, and I paired it up with the Book of Shadows. Let's have a look at another couple of decks, because otherwise it's going to be a very long video. So I'm going to show you the Earth Blessings Oracle card, because that's what we were talking about, by Liz Dean. This is another Welbeck Balance publication. Very good deck. Really, really enjoy it. Absolutely interesting. You know, these decks have the this peculiarity that have different backs. So it's very beautiful, because this is actually referring back to 4 different seasons. As you can see, autumn, winter, summer, and spring. So I already shuffled it. It's, let's say, again, whenever I talk about this deck, or these decks actually, because they have the same, well, there you go, what we got here. We got Comfort and Wonder. Cool. Absolutely. We're talking about travel, so we're planning our next trip, but this time is because we're going to Italy at the end of January to get my husband's treatment for the carcinoma, the skin cancer, and so we're talking about it. And since the treatment there has to be two treatments 3 weeks apart, so we're looking into going somewhere, maybe Iceland or Ireland, the UK for sure, because we're flying into London. And so we're looking at destinations in Europe we haven't been to. We love travel planning. We love it. It's just what makes travel even more enjoyable, because you've been planning for months. I just wanted to show you this deck, how beautiful it is with other photographic kind of decks. So first of all, I want to show you with the Somnia Tarot, which is very beautiful. It's a I always, whenever I talk about this deck in my channel, I always say that Nicholas Bruno, which is the photographer and the creator, is clearly very skilled as an artist, as a photographer, because of the use of the light, for example. I believe that this deck, the Somnia Tarot, if you're not familiar with it, it deals with sleep paralysis, which is a very powerful thing to talk about. Now, sleep paralysis may sound, and it is actually in many cases, is a very dark subject, because many people actually suffer from it, and they have a lot of anxiety that comes after that. And I believe that this is sort of reflected in the cards as well, because of the presence of the shrouds, as you can see, of the rope, as you can see, the element of water, which is always a constrictive kind of element. Is not a flowing water, it's a water that keeps you down, that bears on you, that burdens you. And the reason why I believe these two actually work together is because the Oracle deck, being so airy and light and calm and peaceful, it actually brings back the darkness. It dials it down a little, you know, that kind of darkness that you can feel coming out of the tarot deck. I really, really enjoy working with these two together. The way I work with them is I definitely start from the keyword and the image that come from the Oracle deck in the center. In this case, we've got a miracle, May a miracle come to you. These are all affirmations and invocation as well. And then, you know, you expand the message and you look at the cards. Ironically, there's 2 sevens. Obviously, you know, you need to look at these things. It's not just a coincidence. There is a reason behind the fact that we've come, a card that comes to you saying, may a miracle come to you, is because it knows that you're stuck. It knows that you're stuck in a situation in which you don't know where to move, because you know where to go, because you have so many things in front of you, you don't know how to choose. And so may a miracle come to you, because sometimes we cannot choose by ourselves. We need that kind of help that comes from sometimes another person, sometimes from, you know, a guide that you may have. And the 7 of Wands in this case tells you that you need to stick to your guns. You need to, yes, it's going to be difficult. Everyone else is against you. You're facing them. They're a group and you're on your own, but you need to stick to your guns. It's almost as if we were telling you, yes, right now you're stuck. You kind of don't know what to do. But if you persist with your vision, with your projects, with your ideas, with what you feel that it's the best thing to do for you, then you will eventually win. You will eventually survive and go ahead and win this kind of situation that you find yourself into. So I really, really like the interactions between these two. Obviously, there's a different kind of elements that you can recognize. You know, the echoes and resonances I always love to talk about when I talk about a pairing between a tarot and an oracle deck. Always the elements that draw your attention in the images in front of you. Where does your eye fall to? Where do you look in the image? These are photography related images. These are actual photos, so obviously you have a different approach to them. It's not art, even though it is artistic photography. So there will be an immediate or almost immediate recognition of what you're looking at. Use that, because that's part of intuition. That's part of your process of understanding the message that is coming out of the cards. So really, really love these two together. So the Earth Blessings Oracle cards, it's new to Australia. I don't know whether it's been published anywhere else yet or already. In any case, as always, for each and every deck, unless they're out of print, I will definitely put the link in the description box below. So if you want to buy them, you can. But just quickly, I wanted to show you how this deck, this Oracle deck, works with a different tarot, which is a deck that I actually bought from the Boutique London, from Miranda. Thank you so much, Miranda, if you're watching. That was, I don't know whether you've seen, I think you've seen my my post on Instagram. So I was waiting for this deck, which is, I'm going to show you now, it's the Hyde Tarot, created by Dan Francis. Really gorgeous and independent tarot. It's an indie deck. So Miranda sells it in the Boutique London website, which I will of course link again in the description box below. And then she also sent me the PDF guidebook, which is actually very relevant for this deck. But I was talking about the fact that something that I ordered from London on, I don't remember specifically, but let's say I ordered it on a Monday. It arrived Tuesday of the week after. So 8 actual days, not even 8 working days. It was, let's say, 6 working days. And something that I bought from someone in Melbourne took 2 weeks to get to Sydney. So congratulations. I don't know whether I should congratulate Australian Post for being so slow, or I should congratulate British Royal Mail for being so quick. I think it's a bit of a mix between the two. Okay, so in any case, so what we see, oh, miracle again, this card. I wish, I long for a miracle. Thank you, I really do. I mean, who doesn't? So these two work really well together. Probably we start from a different point of view than the Somnia, because this is not photography, but we get to the same point. Why? Because I feel that this tarot deck is first of all, absolutely gorgeous. I really love it. It's very symbolic. It's got, all of the cards have one central figure. And you'll see that is actually identified with the title. So you got the parrot, you got the moth. The concept behind this is the High Tarot is called the High Tarot because the author used to go bird watching or birding in the wild, and the best way to do that, if you're familiar with it, you will know, you'll have to find one of those huts. It's like a small cabin and it's camouflaged, so it actually blends in the environment and it gives you the possibility to hide inside of them. Sometimes there's like a small chair that you can sit on. There's in the most touristic places they may have some water. And why was this one upside down? I don't read upside down, especially not oracles. Thank you. My gratitude lift you up. Yes, definitely. So you can just stay there for hours, and in many cases you actually have to stay there for hours simply because it's not that easy to spot, but depending on where you go. And I remember there was this movie, and I can't remember the title, but it was such a cute movie, and it was with Jack Black and Steve Martin and Owen Wilson, and I think it was the Full Year or something like that. I don't remember the title. It was the something year, and it was the story of Jack Black, who was a very passionate birder, and he wanted to spend the whole year, going to several different places in the US and spotting different species of bird. And I think that, you could win it. You win some kind of a competition by tallying up how many birds of different species you spot. And so it becomes a bit of a competition between him and Steve Martin and Owen Wilson, who's a celebrity birder. And they even go to the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. They go pretty much everywhere, and it's just fantastic. And I love that. And I remember that my husband and I are not necessarily birders, but we love natures, and obviously we love traveling. And so that's a combination that you often find whenever you travel. And I remember we were in Sri Lanka just recently, and we were going to this Uwadalawe National Park, and we saw so many different species of birds that were just absolutely fantastic. They are so beautiful. I wish I had those binoculars. I actually bought them for my husband, but he broke them a few years ago. So I should buy them again because they're actually very helpful. And we were lucky enough to go to Costa Rica and actually see, live a quetzal, which is a very elusive bird and it's not at all easy to see. Now, the reason why I was saying that we get to the same place, we start from different spaces than the Somnia Tarot with the High Tarot, but we get to the same conclusion. So we start from a rather not necessarily full light kind of deck. It's not necessarily a shadow deck, but it's a rather dark kind of deck. And we got this lightening up of the tone thanks to the Oracle and the messages that it's giving you in a very beautiful way. So these two together, and with the Somnia as well, they are very powerful. Just another example of a pairings that I wanted to show you with this Oracle deck is with another recent acquisition, which is the Tarot of the Drowning World. This is also a recent acquisition from the month of August, but it's actually a deck that I follow through. I knew this deck very well even before I actually bought it, because I follow the artists and creators on Instagram, and they actually did a full kind of reportage of how they set up, these photo shoots, and that was very interesting. For photography, it's always something very interesting how another photographer sets up the scene and obtains a different kind of results or effects on the photo, I can assure you it's something that everyone will be really watching intensely. Now these two together, they have a very similar energy. This is a combination of, so the Tarot of the Drowning World, we need to understand a couple of things about this deck. It's an incredibly quirky deck, okay, let's be honest. Of course, you see characters that have their eyes closed. Are they dead? Are they sleeping? They are posed, for sure, and they are, as you can see, they're deep in the water. And this is, you know, relating back to the title, the drowning world. It's not the drowned world, it's the drowning world. It's something that obviously some of the cards are very strong. It's a very very intense and very powerful intellectual exercise, and I love the book. The book that comes with the deck is absolutely fantastic. The amount of information for each and every card is just fun. It's amazing. You will gather so much knowledge on literature and philosophy and Eastern philosophy and physics and art, and, you know, literal production, can't pronounce that word, and theatrical production. It is just a beautiful combination. It's just something that really makes you thirsty for more knowledge. It pushes you to break the boundaries of what we think we can reach for. You know, sometimes we believe that we have our own bubble of knowledge, that there is a limit to what we can know or what we can understand. I will never understand physics. I can study that. I did study physics. I had to. Otherwise I couldn't have graduated, but I just did not understand it. I just learned it by heart. I just learned it by memory. I could recite the formulas and I could recite the concepts, but I don't think I actually necessarily understood physics. This book will actually talk about a range of arguments in such a way that it actually makes them very affordable and very easy to understand and approachable to everyone. And that's something I'm very grateful for, because, as you know, I always make sure to read the guidebooks of the decks that I buy, and I'm very grateful whenever I can get that much more knowledge because of what they talk about. And apart from that, I actually believe that these two work really, really well together. So this is the Tarot of the Drowning World, and we've just seen a few pairings with the Earth Blessings Oracle cards. But now I want to talk about this deck. Why? Because this is the Falling Card Tarot by Jenny McLaughlin. Now, Jenny is actually from Adelaide, so she's a fellow Australian. I want to talk about this deck because I believe, and I may be completely wrong, and please understand that what I'm going to say, it's something that is completely personal, reflects my own personal opinion and no one else's. And I admit that I could be completely wrong. But this deck, so this is the booklet that comes with it. It's very nice, very cute kind of booklet, because it's you know, held together by a thread. Well, the prints are in black and white. The cards are not, obviously. And it's got a couple of words for each and every card. So not a lot of you know, text when it comes to the guidebook. But I wanted to keep this here because I think this is one of the many examples in which people tend to pass up on the opportunity of buying this deck and enjoying this deck because of one card. It may be, and this is just my case and a couple of friends that I have in the tarot community, that they told me that they had the same reaction. Personally, I believe that this is the Magician's card. Let me find it. And it's not the most beautiful card of the deck. As a matter of fact, there you go, we got it here. I believe that my reaction when I first saw this deck, I saw the booklet and I saw the bag, which is a really beautiful bag, by the way, and I saw this card, and this is the card that the artist has chosen to represent the whole deck. So of course you'll be excused to think that the rest of the deck is very much in theme with this card. However, I have to say that for a number of times that I had the opportunity to buy this deck, I did not, because of this card. I don't like it. It's not to my taste. I understand it. I understand that it works for the magician. I see the lemniscate here. I see the hands pointing to the as above and the hand pointing to the so below. I see the symbols, absolutely. I'm not saying it's not an effective way to communicate the meaning of the card of the magician. I just aesthetically don't find it appealing to me. So it could be fantastic for someone else, or it could not be. However, I heard a lot of people saying that they actually were, let's say, kind of pushed away from the opportunity of buying the deck because they only saw this card. Then one day, I saw, without knowing that it was this deck, I saw, I think, the Suit of Swords, but I also saw the Ace of Wands. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a beautiful deck. And I saw some other of the majors, and I saw a few of the swords, the Suit of the Swords. And I was like, I really love this deck. It's, oh my God, I look at the Hermit card. And, you know, I was like, what is this deck? I need it. I need this deck. And someone told me that's the Falling card, Tarot. And I was like, what? Sorry, just a second. And then I did some research and I looked at the Instagram. There you go. That's another card that actually convinced me this is the Ten of Swords, and that's definitely the way I read and I see the Ten of Swords. Your head is in a cage, but there is still this sun, you know, at the center and almost out of your chakra. It's a beautiful interpretation and depiction of the card, and so I may say for many other of these cards. And so I look at the Ace of Swords. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And so I really, you know, I reached for someone that I knew had it on sale in one of the Facebook groups, and I was really happy to get it for a very reasonable price. And I've been using it a lot recently because I really enjoy this deck. I have to say this, I actually really enjoy this deck. It is an admission of guilt from my part because I did not think I would have liked it, simply because I made a mistake of focusing on only one card and thinking that the whole deck would have been like that, when that was rather stupid of me to assume that. I mean, look at this Hangman. It is not for everyone. I'm not saying that it's a stunning, gorgeous deck that everyone will love. I'm not saying that, but I don't think that was the purpose of the author, of the creator, when they started off and created this deck. Clearly, there's a lot of images that are kind of confronting. So you have to understand that. You have to understand what your feelings are when you look at these cards. But to me, that's actually a really, really beautiful deck. I love it, and I also love the way in which I work with it. So this is the Falling Card Tarot. So we're almost done with the decks for today, for the month of August. But I wanted to show you how beautiful these two decks are. So the Mind's Eye Tarot by Olivia Rose and the Heart's Eye Oracle by Olivia Rose, so the same creator. An artist. Olivia's account on Instagram is absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend it. It's full of really, really beautiful work of art. She's not just involved in the production of Oracle and Tarot decks. And by the way, there's also another Oracle deck which is not indie. It's called the Mermaid's Purse Oracle. This is a mass market production by US Games, and this is still an indie production. Yes. Normally, as you know, I would not always pair up an Oracle and Tarot deck by the same creator, by the same author. But when two decks go so well together, I actually do, because I think, why not? I mean, after all, the creator probably liked them together. So this is kind of different. It's got different cardstock. This is more like that kind of rose petal, but it's not the sticky type of rose petal. This is the linen or similar. How do you say that? Similar to linen cardstock. It's actually very good value for money because it's a very nice and high value, let's say gold gilding. And this deck also comes with a very beautiful chunky monkey of a guidebook, which is in full color. Although I have to say, when it comes to the description of the cards, you don't necessarily have pages and pages, as you can tell, and not even when we look at the majors. You only have, you know, a short description and an upright and a reversed meaning. But let me show you how these two work together. So I have been debating whether to trim the borders of the Oracle or not. And as a matter of fact, if you have this Oracle deck and you trimmed it, can you please let me know? Because I am not entirely sure that, so what I wanted to do is just trim these borders and just, you know, cut it here, because I also don't want to go over the keywords. So just, you know, trim it like this, the top and the sides, and keeping the bottom. So I'm not entirely sure that it will work, because this is completely borderless, except when it comes to the bottom. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes you do want to have some kind of framing to the cards. I don't know. But in any case, yes, please, if you have trimmed the Oracle deck, let me know how it works, how it looks, how it feels. Is it better? Is it more flowing? I don't know. Very recognizable art style, of course, it's the same artist. Same color palette, I would say, that they share. I absolutely adore these two decks. This is the kind of art style that for me is actually not just beautiful because it's beautiful, but also very conducive, very, very intuitive. And it's, when it comes to the keywords, the Oracle deck is very powerful, very interesting. It's got only one keyword, but you can really focus on that and elaborate your storytelling. And when it comes to the tarot deck, I have to say, let's see if I find the minor. There you go. So it's scenic, it's fully illustrated, and it's actually very beautiful. And it is also, it gives you also the possibility to read it with symbols, with elemental symbols, and not just necessarily through the RWS system, which is always appreciated, as the elemental water for the cups, etc., the elemental fire for the wands, etc. So it's something that is always, you know, I always take that into account whenever I say, if I like or not a deck, because that's something that I work with, and these kind of energies are important in my practice. So I appreciate it when an artist is actually making an effort to show you the interpretation of the cards through the symbology. But these two are just simply amazing, so beautiful together, absolutely amazing. So this is the Mind's Eye Tarot, and this is the, this one is the Mind's Eye Tarot, and this is the Heart's Eye Oracle. And last but not least, when it comes to decks that I've acquired in the month of August, I've actually been very lucky, because I got a copy of The Sisters of the Sea by Lucy Cavendish, Healing Magics from the Mermaids. Now, this is a Blue Angel production. So obviously Blue Angel being Australian, they released it first in Australia. That's why everyone in Australia has a copy of this. And I think that it's just been released now in the US. In any case, I'll always put the link in the description box below. What happened was that I set out to buy a watery kind of deck with a mermaid kind of energy. And I found myself with a dragon fae kind of energy in an oracle deck. Which is absolutely fine, but what happens was that I actually don't feel like pairing it up with a mermaid themed tarot deck, like, for example, I don't know, well, there's a few, obviously, as you can imagine, but I actually felt like it would pair up really well with a dragon fae kind of energy. So I actually got the Mystic Fairy Tarot by Linda Ravenscroft, with the text by Barbara Moda. This is the Llewellyn, but it's the small kind of you know, release. There is I believe a bigger version of this one with a bigger guidebook, but I just wanted to see how these two would pair together before I splurged on the bigger box. And I have to say, they work really well together. So it was a bit of a surprise, but also not so much, in the sense that I immediately felt this kind of dragon energy coming from, or fairy energy coming from this deck. If you like dragon decks, there's many. I think this one will pair really well. I used to pair with the Dragon Tarot, the old one from the 90s. But I believe that this one actually pairs up really well with the Celtic Dragon, which I don't have. By the way, the illustrations are by Amy Brown. So obviously we're talking about watery kind of energy here. But because of a combination perhaps of the colors chosen, or you know, the perhaps the art style, the images themselves, it really gives you the idea of a fairy energy. And I really do believe that these two work really, really well together. It's as if they were not so distant cousins, let's put it this way. And if you want to try it out with a dragon themed deck, let me know, because that would be very interesting. I don't have any dragon themed deck yet, but I'm not opposed to buying one if it pairs up well with this Oracle deck. I think that these two are fantastic together. They also share a very similar kind of energy. So regardless of the fact that these are supposed to be mermaids, okay, but the energy, look at this card, for example, tell me that it's not a fairy kind of energy or a dragon fae kind of energy. To me, that's exactly what it is. It's also because they look almost as if they were drawn by the same artist. They have the same expression on their faces, the same you know, kind of shape, ears. They have the same position with their hands, you know, elevated like that, and they're looking in the same direction. Obviously one is a mermaid, so it's got a fishtail, and another one is a fae, so she's got wings. But as you can see, the mermaid also has wings. It's really, these two really work so well together. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing, and I really love to see when something like this works. It's a joy for me, because it means that I bond instantly with the decks whenever I can see that I find the right combination. It's a way for the deck also to expand on the messages, because you also use the energy of a tarot deck beside the Oracle deck. Well, there you go, you also have a dragon, of course. So in any case, this is a really beautiful deck. It's got that kind of cardstock that has only come to standard production within Blue Angel recently. So it actually is a very good kind of matte. It's halfway between a rose petal and a matte cardstock. It doesn't stick. It's very, you know, easy to shuffle, easy to fan out kind of deck. I really enjoy it, really like it, and I hope, and I don't know for sure, I have no idea, this is just speculation, but I hope that this will be the standard cardstock that they will use from now on. And I also hope that they will look into reprinting some of their most popular decks with this cardstock, because that will be exceptionally good. So these two together, absolutely fantastic. I just love the energy. So we've seen this one is the Sisters of the Sea Oracle deck, and this is the Mystic Fairy Tarot. So when it comes to, let's say, video games, I don't have the actual CD because I actually bought it online, but I played Killer Frequency. If you don't know it, Jacksepticeye has the full game on video from maybe a couple of weeks ago or something like that. It is a fantastic game to play. It's kind of open world in certain settings, multiple choices, and the story develops according to what you choose to, how you choose to react, and how you choose to express yourself and relate to others, which is the kind of game that I really like. It's a thriller, and no, seriously, it is absolutely fantastic. So I highly recommend it. And when it comes to books, I've actually been reading a few books by Scandinavian authors. I don't know why, but I felt like I was really into, you know, Scandinavian fiction, let's say, this month. But the book that I wanted to talk about is actually this one, which has nothing to do with the Scandinavian authors. This is by Frank Lovis, and it's The X-Files Declassified: The Truth. So this book has not been authorized by any entity involved in creating the X-File. So what happened was that Frank is obviously a fan of the X-Files, which I used to be so much into when I was, what do I remember, in my teenage years or something, probably, yeah. When I was a teenager, I absolutely loved, you know, watching that. It was, I think it was on Monday nights on TV, and I just couldn't wait the whole week. But back then you had to, you know, because we didn't have streaming services, obviously. And I absolutely loved it. And there were X-File clubs in Italy, and I belonged to one, and you know, we had all sorts of trivia related to Mulder and Scully and the actors and everything. It was absolutely amazing to be part of this community. But when I saw this, I bought it for like $3. I think it's secondhand. So this is basically a fan that wrote down the story and a few details about each and every one of the episodes, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. So, you know, for example, in this case, we're talking about season 1, episode 2, and September 17, 1993. You know, it gives you the X-File number. Government denies all knowledge. So the writer was Chris Carter, director Daniel Sackheim, which is also interesting. If you're into X-File trivia, of course, you will know that while Chris Carter was originally the writer, then he was a supervisor. There were a number of writers that wrote different episodes, and there were a number of directors as well. So there's a bit of a description of the episode, and I just loved it. It gives you the cast. There's one of the first times in which you see Deep Throat, for example. Then you got some bits and pieces of trivia, the location, which is amazing because I'm always interested to see where some movies or some shows have been filmed. The cast, the repertory, and then it starts with a different one. So obviously this one is, I didn't necessarily read all of them because I didn't read it sequentially, but I just, you know, opened it up here and there and just remember these because I've watched all of the X-Files episodes more than once. So of course I don't remember all of them, of course, but the ones that I like the most, of course, I still remember them. So this book was really, really interesting, and I highly recommend it. I honestly don't know whether it can still be found for sale. This was a second hand, as you can see. It's kind of broken everywhere. But if I find it on Amazon, I'll definitely link it below. And what I did this month was, when I got back from my holiday, I also went shopping for a few inks. When it comes to inks, you know that I'm a bit of a fanatic of fountain pens, and obviously when you're a fanatic of fountain pens, it goes without saying that you also love inks. So bottled inks, these two are Diamine. Now these ones are very special because they belong, both of them, to the Ink Vent collection. What does that mean? It's a very special collection of inks that Diamine releases every year in combination with the Advent to Christmas. Now, because I'm saying this now because they started with the pre-orders for this year's Ink Vent collection. So these are both of them belonging to the blue collection. There's a red one, there's a green one, there's a blue one. Each year is slightly different, let's say. These ones are, this one is Shimmer and Sheen, and this is just the Shimmer. So what I did, I actually tried them out in my Tomoegawa paper. So this one is Storm, this one here, Snowstorm. As you can, let me see, as you can tell, it's got really lovely gray kind of silvery shimmer. It is absolutely beautiful. And this one is the Happy Holidays Shimmer and Sheen, and it's this one here, which is it was an absolute surprise because I had no idea how beautiful it would have been. So the first pass is this one. As you can tell, it's blue, and I was really disappointed because I was like, well, I can't really see any sheen or any shimmer. But then I went over it another couple of times, and this is the result, and you can definitely see, if I can show you, and you definitely see the sheen here, and obviously the shimmer. Oh, okay, well, as you can see, you need to be careful when handling this because the shimmer is literally glitter, and even though I did this 3-4 days ago, it still comes out, and it's now transferred onto my finger. So that's something to be mindful of. Perhaps the quantity, perhaps I did too many passes. It's probably my fault. And the fountain pen that I used this month is the Special by Cross. I can show you, as you can see here, Cross. It's a brand of fountain pens. And it was a very special series with this kind of engraving in gold foil and this kind of markings. Really, really beautiful. There were green ones, red ones. I think it was they were based on places on Earth, very special places on Earth. I believe one of them was called Antelope Canyon, another one Sri Lanka. This one is, I believe, the Raja Ampat, which is in Indonesia. If I'm wrong, because I actually have a couple of these, so if I'm wrong, I will just put the link in the description box below if you're interested. I think they're still on sale. I'm not entirely sure though, because it was during the pandemic, and I remember that even then I had to wait for the pen to be restocked. So I'm not entirely sure that it's still on sale. It's a beautiful pen. If you know this brand, Cross, it's got it's a fantastic instrument for writing. Very light. This is, by my choice, is a medium-sized nib, because I don't think they actually do a broad size nib. So what I do, I actually do not recommend using these inks because they have shimmer. I do not recommend using these nibs on, these inks on expensive fountain pens, because if you're not aware, shimmer, as you've seen it before, it's still on my finger, for example. The glitter on some shimmer and also the chemical components on some of the sheen inks can actually stop the feeders, can actually clog the feeders, and it's actually very expensive to have these fountain pens cleaned, and in many cases it only happened to me once, to be honest with you, with I did not with a diamond, but with a J. Herban ink that I had to bring one of my Mont Blanc back, and I was really scolded. I was yelled at, you know, and they did it, they cleaned it, that was fine. But I was really yelled at because you're not supposed to use these ones, especially not on medium nibs. If you have, for example, I don't know, maybe a Lamy or a Kaweco, for example, a fountain pen with a broad nib, in that case you can try, because it's a $30 fountain pen, which is still expensive for a pen, but at least it's not a couple of $100 or a couple of $1,000 worth of you know, purchase that you're ruining. But these inks, of course, they work really well when you have, you know, any other kind of fountain pen. These two types of inks and related inks work really well with this type of pens, let's say. And because this is literally, it doesn't have any feeder, this is a dip pen. You actually dip it in the bottle. So not having any feeder, obviously you cannot clog them. But you can also, you know, try your luck with a Kaweco, very simple Kaweco like this one. This one is a, I think it's a double broad. It's a very wide nib. So this kind of pens also have a wider kind of feeder system, and they can eventually be okay with inks that have shimmer and sheen. And this is it for today. It was a very long video, so thank you so much if you stayed with me till the end. It's always a pleasure to show you my recent acquisition in my Tarot and Oracle collection, but also, you know, to talk with you about anything that has been catching my attention during the month of August, which has been a very busy month for me. I got back from my vacation. I had to catch up on everything that, you know, was obviously left behind. I also had to catch up on another couple of issues that we had that, you know, may be influencing my next couple of months as well. And I also had to, you know, carry out service as a juror in a jury commission and jury panel. And therefore, it's been fascinating, obviously, to see this with my own eyes, because that was my first time. And it's a very fascinating, interesting, but also a bit, it's an intense kind of experience, as you can imagine. And I had to do a lot of work on myself because of that. And it's always interesting though, because tarot has actually helped me a lot. And it is one of those things that you can read tarot all your life and you can use tarot for your clients. But when you find yourself, your own self, in a situation in which you're the one that actually needs help, and you know that there's an instrument that other people don't have, and you do have it, it's there for you. So it's been very, very interesting and very powerful, a powerful month, let's say. So thank you again for staying with me till the end of this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really means the world to me. It helps build this sense of community, because as I was saying many times before, the reason why I'm doing this is definitely not the money, because I can assure you we're talking about 50 cents a video, if such, but it's because of the sense of community, of being there with you and interacting with you and seeking those meaningful interactions that we can have. And that's all I'm looking for. That's all the reason of this channel. So the more we are and the more we interact, the more comments. And when I will start my memberships, we will do live as well. So it will be really so much fun, and I can't wait. So stay tuned, more to come. Have a great day.